George Michael there. You're listening to Cary Grant on BBC Radio London, sitting in for Joe Good. And I'm chatting to Julia Samuel, MBE, and we're talking about her book, Every Family Has a Story, How We Inherit Love and Loss. And my goodness, she is dropping some nuggets today. Julia, thank you for staying with me for so long. It's wonderful having you on the show. Now, we're going to go over to Marcus in Fulham. Good afternoon, Marcus.
Hello, Cary and Julia. How are you both?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. Now, Marcus, you're a relationship psychologist yourself, aren't you?
Yes, for the LGBTIQ plus and straight communities, whatever that happens to mean. And I just so happened to put on BBC London Radio 5 minutes before George Michael, and I heard Julia speaking, and I thought to myself, oh my God, this is exactly what I am currently doing in my relationship psychology now that I have up-leveled, up-spiritualized and upscaled the stuff that I'm doing. And when I heard what she was saying, I thought to myself, I cannot believe the words I'm hearing, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now.
Julia, let's hear from you. Yeah, well, what are your thoughts on that, Julia?
Well, isn't it so lovely when you're doing something that feels kind of new and exciting and slightly out there, and you hear someone affirming it and acknowledging it and saying that what you're doing is really important? You suddenly get a kind of boost of confidence. That's what I'm imagining, Marcus?
It is, Julia, and I was just about to go and have a bath, and I didn't, and I turned the radio on.
You were definitely meant to be with us this afternoon.
I don't have to say much, because you said it all, Julia. I just need to just say bits that you haven't said, if that is possible.
Please do, yeah, please add. Chip in.
What do you want me to say? Okay, if I just say really roughly 4 of my clients this week, one of them who is a total, absolutely amazing man, just like all my other clients. I only do amazing people, otherwise there's no point. He's currently, he's healing his own trauma in his life. He's, I can't, there's some stuff about him I can't say, but basically he's decided to heal all of the traumas from his from his biological parents, his adoptive parents, his biological grandparents, his adoptive grandparents. He's actually basically doing the whole lot.
Wow.
And he's just one of the most amazing people I have ever met, and I'm learning so much, and every day it makes me humbled with the job I do.
And Julia, that's incredible, Marcus. Thank you for sharing that. Julia, is it possible to do that? Obviously, we want these things. It sounds like, that person is really having to look at generations and multi-different relations. There's adoption in there. There's a lot to unpack. How long, because we also want to know, how long is it going to take? Can we just do this in 6 months? Am I going to start to feel a little bit better about this stuff? Julia, how long does it take?
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to acknowledge your client's courage. You can't fix what you don't face. So he's facing so many multiple complexities. But the other side of it to you, Cary, is I don't think we can kind of go back and make clean everything that was complicated and painful and has wounds in us. I think the thing about trauma is that it stays alive and on alert in your bodies. It has no sense of time, and it blocks our capacity. Trauma trumps logic. So if you do the work of trauma work, you take the distress out of your body, and then you have a narrative that tells you a story that makes sense of why you respond in a particular way and who you are. And then there's a kind of authenticity that you have, a kind of a patchwork of you inside that you can kind of make sense of, rather than always feeling that you're in some way fragmented and there's something that's missing and there's something that's frightened you. It doesn't mean that you're healed and all is good with the world, because as human beings, we have memories of pain in order to protect us from doing the same thing again.
Yes.
So it stays with us, and we have the scars, but it doesn't. By doing the work, it means that we're not acting out from the injuries. Yes. We support ourselves, bear them, and make better decisions, trust more, have more emotional availability.
I love that, Julia. Marcus,
Yes.
it's so great to have you. I feel like I just want to sit back on the sofa and listen to you two chat. But I'm aware, Marcus, that trauma is something that it's like the buzzword, isn't it, of the day at the moment. I was looking at some figures for it on TikTok. It appears more than any other word on TikTok. Apparently, at one point I was
Seriously.
Yeah. Trauma is like the buzzword, especially among young people, which is why I was saying young people are our hope. Marcus, is this something that when you were training, did this come up in your training, or is this something that's come up more recently?
Oh, golly, in my training, I trained in 1999 at Thames Valley University, which is now the University of West London, got a first for that. But since then, I've been to all sorts of what people may call fluffy courses, where you go into little strange places in Britain or anywhere in the world where someone trains you on all the airy-fairy stuff that people can't see. And there was one occasion when I had some unresolved stuff with my Chinese grandfather. He died before I was born, and I always felt there was an affiliation with me. During one of our fluffy moments at one of these fluffy courses, he came to the room that I was in that I actually might be my grandfather. And then when I told my brother and my sister about it, how there is a possibility that not only am I their brother, but also I could also be their paternal grandfather. Well, my brother was okay with that. My sister was a little bit, I think she's okay with it now, but it also means that I am also my dad's father-in-law. And also
that makes it super complicated.
Also means I'm also my mum's dad. And then after that, there's something else happened which confirmed that first situation when the lady who was doing the course said that to me through something else that happened. But then I used to think about all of the times in my life up until I'm 53 now, or growing up in Australia. Every now and then I'd feel body pains. And then I realised that maybe this is what's been going on in my family when something else happened when I was a certain age, if there is such a thing as reincarnation. And then when my Chinese mum died, and then all of the stuff from the Chinese ancestry came through me, all of that stuff happened as well. And there's so much stuff now, for example, when I talk to people who are talking about a dead relative who they love, any parts of their exposed body turns green, and I now see green on their body, and now I'm starting to see the colour yellow associated with the green when the yellow is more deep-rooted than the green. And also when my clients sit opposite me in my therapy space, their two eyes separate and they talk to each other and they give me information which one is holding all of the depression and all the hurt and all the guilt and all the intergenerational trauma. And the two eyes, when I look at my clients, they look like they're two totally separate beings.
Wow. And Marcus, it sounds like you have taken, obviously you got a first, which is incredible, and you've taken that and you have explored out. I'm aware that you've got your bath run, so I'm going to let you get back to your bath. And I love this idea though, Julia, about, what Marcus is essentially saying, that this is me paraphrasing, is he's making sense. He's trying to make sense of what's happened and what he feels. And isn't that what we're all doing? Trying to make sense of it.
I think we are all trying to make sense of it, and sometimes there's no sense that can be made of it. But I do think the stories that we tell ourselves, if we know more fully what the story is, however we come about them, whether it's through a spiritual sense or not, that is the person we become, and that influences us to feel more confident and less frightened. Just to go to your point about trauma, I'm fascinated that it's was at one point the most used word on Twitter, and my worry about this, and this may be because I'm a kind of old bag, is that people pathologize feeling upset or angry and call it trauma. Yes. I'm traumatized because I left my handbag, on the train, and they may be really upset and it's incredibly annoying. But that isn't, from my perspective as a psychotherapist, that isn't a trauma. It's just unbelievably annoying. And you're annoyed for a few days and you have to do lots of calls. But that isn't the same as someone going at you with a knife or being in an accident or, all the different types of traumas that sort of smash through our sense of safety.
And I think in some ways that can make us feel, if we do have those size traumas going on, the big stuff, it can make us feel a bit invalidated.
Yeah.
So, like, hang on a minute. You say, well, I'm quite traumatized by this situation. In my family, I do have quite big traumas. So it then feels like, oh, yeah, people say, oh, yeah, so do I. Like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm really, I'm sorry that you've gone through that. It becomes quite, not like a competition, but it's like, how do we get some levels here where we know that this person is going to be through this in 2 or 3 days, and somebody else, it might take a lifetime of work to get through
Completely.
what
But
they've facing.
also, interrupt you, which therapists should never do. But it means that when you say, a significant annoying event is traumatic, you're amping up your cortisol, you're turning on your code red, and making yourself kind of hyperventilate and not be able to cope with it, rather than being kind of, as lowering yourself down,
Yeah, that's like
doing
trying to
some
find
circuit
the
breakers.
sort of crime to fit the punishment.
Yes, and because you're then gonna forget what you're meant to be doing, and then you're going to be late for work, and you just then make a whole cascade of things because you haven't been telling yourself an accurate story. And it's not because you're lying, but you're just the not knowing what trauma is, which is an overwhelming event where you are at that moment completely out of control, is a different thing.
Now, Annie Newland has been in touch, and Ali says, we have family talks about issues. We all work together to come up with a solution with new roles and behaviours for everyone. We write it all down and we all sign it as a family agreement. If it doesn't work 100%, she says, but we have it to refer back to if the agreement gets broken. Is that a good idea?
Go, Annie. Yes, I think if you all have a voice, you all are heard, and you have what she describes collaborative power. It's not top-down power, where you come to agreement that given a kind of messy, imperfect set of things that happen in life, that this is the good enough answer for our family to work with it. I think that's incredibly empowering for everyone in the family. You're clear about what your roles are. You're clear about what your boundaries are. You're clear that you sense you have agency and what's going on in the family. It's not buried, below the waterline. It's not silent. I think that's fantastic. And also the fact that she realizes it isn't, quote, perfect, but it's, we're messy families.